Alrighty, my friend, I'm going to read some books for the cockroach in the kitchen. Yeah, I've applied some special stuff, and I believe lots of cockroach died last night, so rest in peace. Yeah, man. We have no choice but kill them all. I'm going to read The Pathless Path. I want you to keep my voice down. My wife is still sleeping. It's 7:10. Hold on. I think I'm on page. Pushing forward. No, A Fool's Journey. Creativity requires faith. Faith requires that we relinquish control. What? Creativity requires faith. Faith requires that we relinquish control. Okay. Julia Cameron. As I started to test my boundaries, I split into two different versions of myself. One, default path Paul, focused on continuing my career, looking for the next job. The other, pathless path Paul, was finding his footing and starting to pay attention to the clues that were showing up. Clues that would lead me not to another job, but to another life. The first time I acted on one of these clues was during a conversation with a career coach in Boston. She shared how much she loved what she did. Her infectious energy made me want to know more. One benefit of having learned to be a world-class hoop jumper is being able to support friends. I still don't know what hoop jumper means. Maybe someone who changed jobs a lot? Most people hate thinking about career decisions, and I have always volunteered to help anyone that asked. I told the coach how much I enjoyed this and said that maybe one day I could do what she was doing. She looked at me quizzically and said, "It sounds like you're already a coach, though." Her comment rocked me. She urged me to try coaching as a side gig. I spent the next few minutes making excuses for why this was not possible, but I think I had been waiting for someone like her to push me in a new direction. I finally had somewhere to direct my emergent creative energy, and I told her that I accepted the challenge. It would be a while until I launched the career coaching experiment, but I got to work immediately. I started by building a website, careerswithpaul.com, and writing several articles about why I enjoyed helping people with careers. I tinkered with this project for several months and lost myself in the flow of work at my desk, sneaking in a few hours whenever I could. I'd go home and keep working on it. This phase of writing and creating was thrilling. It was a sharp contrast with my day job where I was working hard but only in safe, predictable ways. Instead of announcing this work to the world, however, Default Path Paul had orchestrated another job change, a position in New York City helping to build a consulting practice that provided services to CEOs and board members of large companies. Despite the obvious shift in my interest and energy, I was still searching for that elusive dream job and had not yet considered becoming self-employed. There was no dream job to be found, but as soon as I moved to New York, the energy of the city supercharged every other aspect of my life. I started exercising, wearing better clothes, and feeling more confident. On the coaching front, I joined a two-year mentorship program for first-generation college students, and finally sent an email announcing the career coaching side gig to 100 of my closest friends and family. Sending that email was terrifying because it was like a coming out party for Pathless Path Paul, a side of me that I had previously kept hidden. I landed my first 2 paid coaching clients, and I loved the challenge of doing something new and on my own. It led me to do many more experiments. Over the next year, I launched a group coaching workshop, created an online course on resumes, started sharing my writing publicly, helped several clients navigate career and life shifts, and was even invited to give 2 paid talks on careers. My view of the world was shifting, and it was both exciting and disorienting. Austin Klein, a prolific creator and writer, says that creative work runs on uncertainty. Creative work runs on uncertainty. It runs on not knowing what you are doing. The creative work of finding a new life path is similar. I acknowledged as much in that email announcing my coaching work. So here I am. I'm going to pursue this on the side, and I wanted to share it with you first. Do I know where this will take me? No, but I'm excited to find out. I took more responsibility for my life and started questioning my beliefs about work. When we talk about our jobs, we often say, I'm learning a lot. In the first few years working in consulting, this was true. I grew in so many areas: writing, giving better presentations, communication skills, and research. A few years into the path, however, the things I was incentivized to learn became specific to the organization, such as navigating political conflicts and adopting behaviors, dress, and attitudes that signaled I might be a future company leader. I sucked at these things, and my motivation tanked. Daniel Vassallo describes experiencing a similar shift 10 years into his career at Amazon. Okay, the water is ready. I'm going to put some buns into the steamer. This is my breakfast. Let's see. I think like 1 or 2 eggs as well. I haven't eaten any boiled eggs for a long time. I'm gonna grab some. I'm gonna continue reading. My wife is still sleeping. Okay. Daniel Vassallo describes experiencing a similar shift 10 years into his career at Amazon. Everything was going well and getting better. Damn it, I saw a huge cockroach. See that? On the wall. There's a huge cockroach. God damn it. I hate seeing that. Okay. But I'll take care of it later. Everything was going well and getting better, but despite all this, my motivation to go to work each morning was decreasing, almost in an inverse trend to my career and income growth. He came to the conclusion that only intrinsic motivation lasts, and decided to leave a comfortable 6-figure salary behind and create a life designed around flexible work, his interest, and his family. My lack of motivation at work made it easy to stay focused on my side project despite not knowing where they were headed. The only way through this kind of uncertainty is to embrace what author and educator George Leonard called the spirit of the fool. He argued that when you start learning anything new, it will make you feel clumsy, that you'll take literal or figurative pratfalls. There's no way around it. I liked feeling like a fool and the excitement that comes with learning something new. The only problem, I was miserable at my job. Pushing forward, it took a year and a half for me to admit that I did not enjoy my job. I had spent years crafting an idea of who I thought I should be and working hard to find jobs that matched this idea. It was hard to admit that the foundation that I thought I had been building was incredibly fragile. The first time I voiced an intention to go work on my own was in an annual performance evaluation with my manager. In a high-rise office overlooking the skyscrapers in New York, I acknowledged that I might be in the wrong place. He said something about me struggling to embrace the culture, and instead of arguing with him, I confessed, my heart isn't in it. I told him about my experiments with coaching and how the excitement I felt outside of work contrasted with the growing cynicism and frustration I experienced at work. For the first time, I was honest with my manager and with myself. As I shared my reflections, I blamed myself, and unexpectedly, I lost the ability to speak, finding myself on the verge of tears. While I didn't know it then, this was the first step toward letting go of my deep attachment to the default path. I returned to my office and sat at my desk, staring blankly at my screen. If you had told me when I was building that spreadsheet of dream jobs during college that not only would I work for several of those companies, but also directly with some of the most famous CEOs in the world, I would have been shocked. But I also would have thought that was exactly what I wanted. As I sat there, I didn't know how to want it anymore. I had been hired to help build a consulting division. The success I achieved in my first year earned me a raise, and I was asked to develop a proposal for a new career path for our growing group. At the time, I felt like I had a future at the company. In my second year, I started working on an internal project meant to take 3 months. As it dragged on for more than a year, however, things started to fall apart. I became frustrated with the snail's pace, and that's when the pebble in my shoe feeling became too powerful to ignore. From my perspective now, I had no future at the company, and by the time I had that conversation about my performance with my manager, things were already headed south. Yet I was still working hard on my proposal for promotion, outlining a multi-year career path for my position based on the experiences of others who live the default path. This stage of contradiction is common. You take a last stand, doubling down on the existing path despite all evidence that it is no longer working. My biggest barrier was my inability to imagine an alternative life. My creative experiments were exciting, but they didn't suggest an obvious next step. It was easier to aim toward another raise or promotion than daring to ask myself deeper questions. A passage from William Raleig's book, How to Avoid Work, published in 1949, captures my reality at the time. Your life is too short and too valuable to fritter away in work. If you don't get out now, you may end up like the frog that is placed in a pot of fresh water on the stove. As the temperature is gradually increased, the frog feels restless and uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable enough to jump out. Without being aware that a change is taking place, he is gradually lulled into unconsciousness. Much the same thing happens when you take a person and put him in a job which he does not like. He gets irritable in his groove. His duties soon become a monotonous routine that slowly dulls his senses. As I walk into offices, through factories and stores, I often find myself looking into the expressionless faces of people going through mechanical motions. There are people whose minds are stunned and slowly dying. My path was suffocating part of me that I wanted to let breathe. I had to do something. Okay, this is great reading. I think it's 7:30. I'm going to wake up my wife. Great story. Thanks for reading with me. 停止录像。